Thank you so much for this opportunity to come to you in this virtual GEM Conference 2021. I'm Pat Cage, one of the co-founders of the Friends of the Episcopal Church in Cuba. I had the opportunity to meet many of you a few years ago in the Dominican Republic, which I believe was the last time we all gathered together. And I'd like to take this opportunity to update you on the situation in Cuba. A lot has been going on. A year ago, March of 2020, the reunification of the Diocese of the Episcopal Church in Cuba with the Episcopal Church of the US was finally completed through a grand celebration in the cathedral in Havana with Bishop Michael Curry in attendance. And it was an amazing, amazing celebration. We all left Havana on March 8th as the first COVID case was identified there. And the world has obviously taken a very different turn since then. The pandemic has really wreaked havoc on Cuba, in addition to some other factors. There are really three things that are impacting the situation in Cuba. First is the US government policy toward Cuba, which continued to become more and more restrictive. Banking has ceased, flights into Cuba were being curtailed by the US, and obviously the movement of people and goods to Cuba was very difficult. Adding on top of that was the drama of the pandemic. Cuba closed its borders, being an island nation, which was the right thing for them to do, but there have really been very limited flights into Cuba in the last 14 months. In addition to the pandemic, the monetary policy in Cuba has changed to the detriment of the people. In January, a new monetary policy was put in place, eliminating the CUC, working solely with pesos and unfortunately US dollars. And with the lack of tourism and the country being shut down for pandemic, the Cuban people have no access to those very valuable US dollars. So the situation in Cuba, from what we understand, is the worst it has been since the special period, which was the time in Cuban history when the Russians pulled out of supporting the Cuban economy. This monetary policy, in conjunction with the restrictive policy of the US, has resulted in great shortages in food, in gasoline, hyperinflation. The price of electricity and water is going up exponentially. So much so that the church has had to turn off water and electricity in some of the parishes because they just can't pay the bills. The Cuban people remain positive, creative, enthusiastic, looking for ways to kind of make things happen and keep their hope alive. But the situation is very dire. We are quite limited in how we can help in the short term. We are no longer able to transfer funds to Cuba. Western Union remittances have been curtailed. So really, we are lovingly sitting on this side of the 90-mile stretch of water while the Cubans are on the other side of that 90-mile stretch, and we have no actual way of getting our support to them. But I want to encourage all of you, if you've had a mission in Cuba or are contemplating a mission in Cuba, we need to be ready. We need to be raising money, getting our resources together so that when we are able to travel to Cuba, when those monetary channels do reopen, when the US policy on Cuba does open up, we are ready to jump in a very positive way to bring much needed help and support to the Cuban people. What's going on in Cuba, with the impact we can have in Cuba, is really very relevant to the mission or the theme of this year's GEM conference. Bishop Griselda's priorities in Cuba have been very much to teach people how to tend the land, how to grow organic fruits and vegetables, how to sustain their own lives by sustaining the life of their property and their animals. And that's a lot of the work that is done in Cuba in the individual parishes as they look to put together agricultural projects that support their individual communities. So please don't forget about Cuba as we go forward. our hands are tied right now, but we hope that's a short-term challenge, and that in the very near future we will be very active and involved in lifting the Cuban people up once again.